Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 28th episode of the Orcocast. With me today, my beautiful co-host and moderator Bum Bum, and live
Hello.
from Florida, down below, is Professor Panda.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing?
Still alive somehow.
As happy as a panda could be.
Awesome. We have a packed program today. Twitch again, and their very weird shenanigans they are doing. It's gonna be the indie super darling of 2020 called Hades, and it's gonna be World of Warcraft Shadowlands pre-patch. And we are going to start with Twitch. What happened? Well, Twitch is notoriously bad when it comes to communicating with the people who actually make them their money. Maybe except for the top 100 moneymakers. And they sent out some emails at the beginning of this week where people got notified that some of their stuff got taken down because of copyright issues, especially when they have a lot of offending content. And yesterday, Friday, the 23rd of October, Twitch started cracking down on copyrighted content. I don't know how severe the entire ordeal is. I haven't looked at it, but allegedly, from what I've seen on Forbes, they said a lot of content creators got like DMCA takedown notices. I think a lot of them might be just inactive accounts at this point because not everyone still streams. That could have been the case. The way they communicated all this was pretty terrible, actually. With a very condescending tone and with not many resources they provide to the content creators to get ready for the day today. I know Bum Bum is not giving much of a S about that, so I'm just gonna skip you asking. And I'm gonna go right down to Professor Panda and ask him, what do you think?
Ooh, well, I gotta tell you, this one has been it's been a lot more bamboozling than I thought it was going to be. Only because when this first came up, I don't know why I had this mindset. Like I understood why they are doing what they're doing to a degree, but it also felt so I don't it just felt so out of place because there hasn't really been anything immediately that felt like, hey, this is something they need to action. I don't know if that makes sense. And to top it on that, I I still tried to meet halfway, like, okay, well, clearly I understand the point of the DMCA stuff, but it didn't feel like it was targeting a massive group. So I was like, okay, so maybe there are very specific scenarios that are being targeted. And then I started seeing the folks that are impacted that were getting emails, and it was horrifying to see because you got content creators that have been doing this for a long time that are what I would argue are industry standard content creators that were concerned because they didn't know what or what not was going to be impacted, you know? The where I find my headspace is in kind of three specific areas. One, I'm disappointed in Twitch to a degree in comparison to seeing what other streaming platforms are doing. Like I'm somebody that I personally am not a fan of Facebook gaming. It is a personal opinion of mine. I completely support those that are over there. Seeing the effort that Facebook is going out of their way to make sure that their content creators are able to utilize the music they want. I mean, that's a powerful move, and it's a panda pod of the face to Twitch, in my opinion. The second area is I feel like this is it's such a damaging thing to a lot of indie games potentially, and and a lot of scenarios where a lot of creators maybe are trying to explore less of the top 10 games that maybe have already vetted a lot of this, because all it would take is one game to have music that somebody gets a strike on, and I mean that's it. That's done. That loses you any market share potential that you might have had, and that's dangerous. That's a dangerous precedent to set, and I'm very worried about that. And probably the third thing is it made me realize, because I also, just to be safe, I went ahead and did the purging as many other folks did, because I didn't know. I didn't know what I might have that would be impacted. So I thought better safe than sorry, and cleared out a well. And as I was doing that, it made me realize that it made me feel like I can't use Twitch for anything other than streaming. Like I loved the exposure post, so to say, that Twitch offered, with my videos being networked internally on the site, with clips being going around. But I have that hesitation now that if I'm not, if I don't fully control what music that I'm listening to, will I get in trouble for it? So that's kind of where my headspace is right now, Worko.
Yeah, so we are basically in the same boat. I said it yesterday on stream. Basically, what the big issue here is that Twitch doesn't give you any guideline whatsoever. What is a no-no and what's a yes? That's probably the biggest issue
Right.
in this entire ordeal.
And I will say, what I'd be very curious to see, will there be a reaction to the reaction, so to say? Because one thing that I will give Twitch credit for is when enough of the community speaks out, they do. Twitch tries at least to acknowledge, if not necessarily fix. But this is such a weird situation, because like it I mean, it sucks. There's no other way around it. But it's a thin line to try to argue, because I mean, the law is the law. A lot of people are saying, but I feel like, and I get that. I feel like Twitch could spend a lot of their effort versus trying to push people into this new thing they're coming out with, in regards of like their music site, or whatever the case may be. Because like I understand that that's supposed to be like a vetted thing, but all it does is make me want to use them even less. Like that pulls me to that makes me desires me more to use like stream jams, or stream beats, and things that I know that have been vetted, and not through Twitch. Like it just that's kind of where my headspace has been a lot with that. So, but I agree with your point completely, Orko.
And the other thing I think is what is really sad and what it shows is that Twitch really doesn't care about you unless you're like a big guy like Shroud or Nick Merckx. I wouldn't say they have special protection. I do firmly believe that though, but that's a personal opinion. I think Twitch is at a point where they just stopped caring about people who bring them in the money. Of course, nobody gives a give says Orko, you're an amazing content creator. You make us $100 a month. You are great, and yeah, that's basically the story about that. Soundtracks by Twitch, I don't know if I ever used that. I mean, I'm not a music guy anyways. I purged everything just to be sure, because it was so poorly communicated what you can do and what not. And it's still not clear what you can do and what not. That's actually the thing that scares me the most. They didn't still clarify anything. They just said basically it's up to the content creator to know. How would I know? It's like YouTube all over again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say it feels like Twitch doesn't know where they want to stand, if they want to be involved with the community, essentially act like a MCM, essentially. Like, okay, we got this and we gotta solve this. But the way they do it is more of a standoffish. This came in, you deal with it, and the information, like to get any information, any understanding of the legality is on you. We just pass on the message essentially.
Yeah,
And I think essentially they got scared. The companies didn't go after specific streamers. Whoever sent the DMCA, whichever label from the music industry, send it directly to Twitch, and they freaked out. And it shows in that message they sent to the streamers as well, because it's essentially it's like, we got this and you deal with it, communicating nothing when it comes to what's wrong with your content. And essentially all they did was add delete all button.
I also find it very curious that you couldn't file any counterclaims to the initial email they sent out. They just said, you know what? We're just gonna delete all your stuff. And
yeah,
there is no counterclaim to it whatsoever.
I will say with that, the only strange observation I had, I agree with you completely, but something that surprised me, at least thinking about this, is that would have been more surprising to me if not for the experience that I went through as a mixer partner transitioning over to Twitch. The experience of going through and letting Twitch know, hey, I was a content creator that was partnered on Mixer. Here's the relevant information. Here's the stuff that you requested for. And the response, the timing, the feedback, it was in a way that you never felt like you were talking to a person. It was very much in line of, you are being addressed by a company. And it was just such a, I don't know, just such a weird and uncomfortable experience. That that seeing the way this is being handled, whereas I want to say that I was surprised, it felt so on par with the experience I've seen, that with my introductory experience to Twitch, which is, I don't know, which I understand why they have to be that way, but I feel like when it's a topic like this in the DMCA's, to not have some kind of support model designed to let folks explain it, I don't know, it feels very disingenuous. So I think that's a really good point, Orco.
I mean, Twitch had this issue for a longer time now. Even while I was streaming on Mixer, I always had an eye on the other platforms in terms of news and gossip and whatever came out of them. And Twitch is always notoriously known for handling these kind of situations really poorly. As much as I don't want to say that, but it's true. I've never experienced any situation, any bigger situation, where Twitch didn't handle it like a multi-million-dollar company that is just out for their money and nothing else. I mean, if they would be out for their money, they would have cared and actually did something about it. But they are like, hey, you know what? We are still the prime streaming platform for video games. And we're going to act like it. So suck it up. It's still a developing situation, I would say. So I would like to come back to that at one point. Does anyone have to add anything?
No.
Good on this side.
We will definitely come back to this topic at one point. We can move over to Hades.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is probably the indie darling of the year. So, what is Hades? Hades is a roguelike action RPG, I would say, that is procedurally generated, and it's made by Supergiant Games, of whom Bam Bam is a super fan of, a
Yes.
simp, so to say, and who I have mixed feelings about. and I don't know what Professor Panda thinks about them, but he will tell me right now.
I'm new to the genre, but I have learned via this that I love them. Very much so.
So, you love Supergiant games. Okay, the developer.
Yes, very much so.
Every one of us played it actually, so this is going to be an interesting discussion. I think I might have played it least out of all of you, so I start with Bum Bum on this one. I give you the reins for now, because you've
Cool.
played like
40
35
hours, yeah.
So you can probably tell us a little bit about it.
It's a roguelite. Yes, you do continuously do, runs over and over again. But unlike a rogue-like game or like the hardcore rogue games, you still progress. You get resources, you learn new stuff, and you continuously unlock new systems as you go along. Essentially, it's all based around this extremely obscure Greek poem about Zagreus, who is the main hero of the game. And you play as Zagreus. He's the son of Hades, and one day he finds out that he has mother, who's not the one he was told to. His mother. He finds out his mother, Persephone, she ran away from the underworld, and basic gist of it is you're trying to battle your way out of the underworld to see Persephone and talk to her. Actually get to the truth of how you've come to reside in the underworld and why she left and all the things between. It's a super fast-paced game. A lot of it is about dashing. Essentially, one of the main ways for you to defend is dashing, and it's also a fast way to move. Combat, there's 5 different weapons. Each of them is completely different. You have sword, lance, a shield, a bow, twin fists, and a gun that you unlock later on. As you go through each chamber is a procedurally generated. There's templates for each chamber, but the enemies within each chamber will be randomized. There are some boss chambers, and each of those mini bosses essentially in those chambers has their own specific chamber, which makes it more playable, I think, because then you're not stuck fighting a boss, say, who can levitate in a place where essentially you have just a single platform and the boss is out of reach, which can happen in some other roguelikes or roguelites here. So it's super polished. They thought a lot about how to integrate the story into the gameplay, because your upgrades are also essentially blessings from the other gods. So you meet like the classic Olympian pantheon is Zeus, Ares, Poseidon, Aphrodite, and they give you blessings, and those are called boons, and the boons affect each of your abilities and some other passives that activate under certain conditions. So say you get Poseidon's tidal dash, which means now when you dash, you can dash into enemies and you will push them in your direction. So you can abuse that to, say, essentially bully an enemy in a corner them and essentially bounce them against the wall, which does bonus damage. So I'm gonna say I absolutely adore the art style. The art style's absolutely phenomenal. The music's great. The voice acting amazing. So it's utterly polished and up to par with the other Supergiant games when it comes to that. And I would also comment on that they are probably one of the best when it comes to integrating the story into the gameplay. The story is also part what drives the gameplay as well, because the repetition and the constant struggle to get to the end and then do repeat runs is worked into that. And I think towards the end I can see people not going out of their way to essentially get the true ending to see the credits. But to me, I've put it on the same way as, say, Death Stranding, where the story and the themes are thoroughly permeated through the gameplay, and that's what makes it so unique to me. And Hades is much in the same way. Whatever you do in the game affects the story.
So, what I personally liked from the amounts of hours I played, I have like 6 or 7 hours in it. Yeah, I know it's not much. But what I experienced in that time is from the gameplay. That's what I personally like about the gameplay the most. And you already mentioned is that if you play a run, it's never wasted. You always gather some resources, you always collect something you need or might need later. And if it's just for 1 chamber or 2 chambers or 3 chambers or whatever, you always get something out of it. So it never really feels like I waste my time with it. Those kind of that's an issue a lot of roguelikes and also roguelites have for me. It always feels like I'm wasting my time quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna compare it to like sometimes I just don't feel like playing Dead Cells because not every run will push me towards, making my character better or unlocking something. Because some
Yeah,
of the stuff to unlock is super grindy, and sometimes I just lose the will to live when I play Dead Cells. Here, like every run at least pushes me towards something, and I unlock something that's gonna give me either a new story scene or make the subsequent runs easier in a way.
that is true. I would say that Dead Cells is still also one of the better examples,
Oh yeah, that's for
even
sure.
if it's very hard at some point and can be very, say, daunting.
Yeah, it can be a
Yeah, but Hades is like ultra well balanced. And the other point that I would like to make is in what other developers might look into. Hades has a gameplay tool set that is super flexible and is super well made. And here is why. It depends on which weapon you use, but I personally got always the feeling when I use different weapons in the game that I had a different playstyle in front of me. So when I used the sword, it felt more like a Diablo kind of game. When I used the fists, which are also incidentally my favorite weapons, it felt more like I played a top-down version of Devil May Cry. I don't know if it's just me, but that's like something I felt that there are slight hinges in genres depending on what weapon you're using. If you're using the bow, it feels like more of a top-down shooter. So, and this leads me to my point. There's something in there for everyone. I know this is a very tired trope, but in this game it's true.
And the thing is also like each weapon, once you get further into the game, you also unlock aspects which are different forms of each of the five weapons that change the game, change the playstyle of the weapon dramatically. The spear is one of my favorite weapons, and it's also I think one of the more beginner-friendly weapons because some of the upgrades you get from the Daedalus hammer, they completely change how the weapon handles. So you can say, like for the spear, one of the upgrades eliminates your option to use the spin attack, which is when you hold the basic attack. Normally the spear does a spin attack, but as a trade-off, now you can essentially just hold the attack button and you'll do super fast, just a stabbing attack. So essentially you might lose one attack, but also you gain insane increase in DPS. So you will change your build around that if that's what you find early. Or there is one of the aspects of the spear is different where you wouldn't pick that ability because if you use the spin attack with the aspect of Hades on the spear, every single enemy you hit gets debuff and you to each of these enemies you do plus say 150% damage. For the bow, one of the aspects gives you the ability that if you hit the enemy first with a basic attack, then every single time you hit your special attack, which is Y or triangle, instead of doing like a basic spread attack of the base form of the bow, now every single arrow in the special attack homes in onto the marked enemy. And each of the weapons essentially has aspects. Each weapon has the first aspect, which is the aspect of Zagreus, that's the basic form of the weapon, and then 3 ones that you have to unlock, and each of them changes dramatically how each weapon handles. So that's one way also to essentially change up the game and make the even like essentially the same framework of the weapon feel different.
Yeah, that's the good part about it. So basically, every playstyle has a place here. I like, for example, I already said that how they feel to me, but that's what I like about the Fist. It makes it feel like I play a top-down DMC game, and I can, for some reason, play better when I feel like that. Sometimes weird with me. I have the greatest success with those. And another thing I also like is the difficulty curve. I beat Meg, that's the furthest I've got, and then saw the Viper or Hydra. I don't remember how the exact name is. The
Lerny.
bone snake.
Bone Hydra.
Bone
Yeah.
Hydra. I felt like after beating Meg, the Bone Hydra was like very easy or felt very easy.
Yeah. It's the easiest boss in the game. Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
at least I didn't crap my pants there. I personally think it was a joy to play against it. I almost beat it on my first try. I went back for a second try and then beat it, but then I died in the next chamber because I'm not very good at this game. My point is, after I beat Meg for the first time, it felt really easy to go back and beat her again. That is
Yeah.
like after I tried her a lot of times, but since I've beaten her, I've never lost to her again. It feels like that once you mastered the boss, they cannot do much about it, the bosses.
Yeah, that's what you think now. There's a thing
Yeah.
that comes up afterwards that's gonna be like, okay, now the bosses are badass again.
I cannot agree with that point enough. Like when you first said that, Orca, I was like, I must be doing this wrong. Holy bamboo! Just wait.
Yeah, because after essentially, it's not really a spoiler. After your first clear, you unlocked what is called the Pact of Punishment, and essentially it's a modular difficulty. So you can then tweak aspects of the run to make it harder. But also, as you see, like each boss gives you a specific reward, right? And you can get those
Yes.
rewards only once on that difficulty. So you have to up the difficulty, and you will again reset the rewards for the boss. So you will get different rewards again for each boss.
Up difficulty or change weapons. Just one clarification there.
Yeah.
'Cause you do get the reward for each weapon you can
Each
get
weapon,
that you
yeah. So essentially, you get 5 rewards for each boss, given you clear with each weapon, and then you have to up the difficulty, and then you can do this rotation again. And one of the things, it's called extreme measures, and it adds a new mechanic to every single boss, and there is 3 levels, I think, to it.
That sounds like a very well-rounded package, actually. Don't see that a lot these days in video games.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
additional difficulties and new modes and whatever. So that's already another plus in my book.
once you get further, you realize that Megara is not the single boss of Tartarus, because she also has sisters. You meet as you go along.
I'm well aware she has sisters. I'm well aware because it says First of the Furies. So there has to
Yeah.
be at least a second one.
Yeah, so there is more sisters to find, and they randomly, like, that's what I like. Randomly, you can run into a different boss, or you will run into, say, one of the characters as a sub boss in one of the areas. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
And I also like that there is a way to mitigate the RNG. Say if you know the game, and you know kind of how to play a certain weapon, and you want to at least know that you get a one god which has the boons to really push your weapon over the edge. There is this kind of like a social sim aspect where you give essentially nectar and then later ambrosia to these characters, and you make a bond with them, and each time you do it for the first time, you get an item which is either gives you a passive buff, which mostly counts for the chthonic gods, like the ones that you meet in the House of Hades, which is your lobby. And then when you go out, each time you see a boon from a god, you can give them the same gift, and you will get their keepsake. And if you take that keepsake at the start of your run, the first boon that you run into at the right start of the game is going to be of that god. So you can in a way mitigate the randomness to a degree within your build, and you can at least ensure that there's through line of the build, so you can actually not have a completely wasted run.
So I can always have the drunken badassness of Dionysus on my side. That's good to know.
Yeah, sometimes I just do it, yeah, exactly with Dionysus, because I kind of want that strong drink ability. Or say for Poseidon, I want Tidal Dash because I can bully enemies with it and just slam them in the corner without having to do anything. That's what I also like about it, that yes, it's a roguelite, it's random, but at the same time they give you tools to mitigate randomness, even through the passive skills in the Mirror of Night,
I would,
where you can.
I would even argue that they do that. Seemingly, I didn't know that you could give the nectar also to the gods. Good to know. I have to collect those boons. Even if they didn't do that, I would say that each of the gods has something to go for. So I wouldn't say there doesn't exist a really bad god. Maybe I didn't encounter them for now. But like I really like my favorite gods are Aphrodite, Dionysus, and Hermes. They are all pretty great. Ares is also good.
You can make an absolutely broken build if you combine Poseidon and Zeus and Athena. Athena can give you abilities that deflect. So maybe you have a dash that deflects every single projectile that's thrown at you. While if you combine Zeus and Poseidon, Poseidon will give you skills that push enemies away. And when you combine certain skills, you get a chance to roll for a combined skills of two gods. And
The
the one
duos, they're so good.
the duels, yeah. And for Poseidon and Zeus is every time you push an enemy, they get struck by lightning. And then you combine that with Zeus's one, which is like every time a enemy gets struck by lightning, they also get jolted for extra damage, and they get sort of stunned. So essentially, in that way, you can become essentially invincible against normal enemies. They are not shielded because they will constantly get jolted and pushed around by your skills.
Our friend down here, Professor Panda, was very silent. So I just
Oh, hi.
pull you up. And what do you have to say?
Sure, I'm gonna try my bamboo best to not be wordy AF with this because there's a lot that I can say about this game, and I think both of you touched a lot of the major the finer points of the game and the gameplay itself. And I will say I agree with both of you entirely. And I will say my perspective is a little odd because as with most things that I'm learning through this journey is I do not have the gaming repertoire that I thought that I did. Like, so this is my first Super Giant experience. This is my first roguelite experience. So I kind of went into this not a lot of background into it, so I didn't know what to expect. But the Panda Nation was heavily advocating for us to check this game out, which we finally did. And just because I do things in lists, there really if there's three major things that I could say about this. One, there is such a panda positive message behind the game that I think it's very much like Dark Souls to me. That it surprised me when I was playing through because I know a lot of the mythology that the game is based around, but I wasn't expecting them to take the angle they did with it. And when I say panda positive, like you are playing Prince Zed, who is, I mean, he's not a bad panda. Like he's in an environment with a set of responsibilities and almost has an expectation from a very demanding father, a set of responsibilities that he does that are expected of him, but not that he wants. And the story seems to focus. I mean, it does have the mythology element into it, but the bigger focus of the story is you have a individual that is it seems very altruistic that seems to really care for others regardless of where they've come from. Meg, it was mentioned earlier. I mean, it's very clear that even Meg being who she is, which a badass, let's get that out of the way, but still acknowledges her as an equal. And it's such a wonderful overtone to see that with every interaction as Prince Zed that you have, it is you see him looking at everybody in a very positive light, or at least giving the benefit of the doubt, be it somebody that is there to help you or to hurt you. And I love that about this game is that I feel like every time that you get bamboozled, Orco, just to tie back to what you said, it teaches you to be okay with failing. And that's what I loved about Dark Souls. We'll always say Dark Souls is a very panda positive game because it teaches you to keep moving forward, that you shouldn't be afraid of falling because you're going to just get back up. You've learned a little bit more and you're going to take advantage of that. And this game just marries that to a T with that Diablo panda smashing feel. So that's number one for me. Is it's a game that I can promote and know I'm promoting a lot of what I try to do as well, and that makes me a very happy panda. Two, the gameplay is so I think Orco, you said it best as well when you talk about every weapon has a different feel. That's a good and a bad thing. The bad is it makes you, depending on your play style, it makes you go against the grain sometimes because there are weapons that could be argued as the best weapons in the game, like the way the mechanics work, the way the RNG works with them. It's very clear that like this is the one and done weapon to use. It feels like you don't pick a weapon based on it being the quote unquote best. You pick one based on your play style. Because I was like, you know what? I love the sword. The sword is panderific. It's great. I love great swords. This is a go-to for me. And then the spear unlocked. And I'm like, nope, this is the best weapon ever. This is great. This is definitely my play style. This is what I'm going to be using. You can't tell me otherwise. And then the shield unlocked, and I'm like, okay, I don't like shields, but you're beating people with a giant board. I love this. This is the best weapon. This is the go-to. And then I finally ended up on my actual go-to, which is the fist. The fist weapons, because literally once a fight starts, I never stop smashing buttons with the fist because it is a fast-paced, it is very much a Devil May Cry feel to it. And I love it because I just sit there and just and getting the correct boons, it rewards you from playing that way. So I love that you can mold the boons and the weapons you use to your play style versus the best because you're rewarded for being able to play the way that you want to play. And then third and final for me is I'm somebody that when it comes to a game that is unnecessarily difficult just for the sake of being difficult, I usually steer clear of it. Dark Souls being my first exception to that. But I want to make sure that I'm always progressing in some way, and this is a game that has kind of felt in that exception for me as well because I think Bam Bam, you mentioned this a little bit earlier as well. Is every time you get bamboozled and you have to restart, not only do you walk back with rewards, not only do you walk back with benefits, but literally I goofed 22 times so far. And every time I've come back, I've had a unique interaction. I've had new dialogue. I've had new things to unlock, to review. Like every time I've made it back to the main area, it's been a unique experience for me. And I love it. I mean, it makes it where I don't care who says what. Nyx is my real mom, and I love her. It makes me where I am going to prove I'm going to make Hades proud someday because he's a jerk, but we're going to do it. You got to pet that dog as well. There's interactions that I look forward to unfolding even more every time that I goof. So it's almost like it feels like a mini reward for not. I don't want to say not doing well, but if you fail, you are still rewarded with those additional interactions, and the world acknowledges when you messed up as well. Like if Meg beats you, she's gonna be in the bar and she's gonna talk to you. You know what I mean? She's gonna be there and just be like, well, here we are again. Like it brings me joy that the game unfolds with your progress, and that makes me very happy. So
also I can also take that what you just said, branch off of it, and just expand your point earlier. You made that the game teaches you to be okay with failure. Also shows that failure can actually sometimes lead to something really cool.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also like even like when you go through the runs, there's so much like either the dialogue from the gods whenever you pick up Baboon. Has either of you? I know Orko didn't. Have you finished the game at least once yet?
No. God damn it.
Panda. I mean Panda.
So I'm gonna acknowledge that. So one, I will agree with you as well about the combo of Zeus, Poseidon, and Athena. Because that's the only combo I've used that I made it to the end of the game. I've made it to the very end of the game and ended up getting bamboozled at the last second. So I had like 3% left. And it broke my heart. I've only made it to the end once, but I've not fully beaten it yet.
Okay, yeah, because like even when you say get past Cerberus, every time you
Oh my heart! Oh
when
my heart!
whenever you go whenever you finish kill or defeat a boss, you get like whoever vanquished, and for Cerberus every time it's a different one.
Oh, that makes me a happy panda. I've only seen that one once, and like the first time that I got there, just to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, I remember when I got to that point, like my heart fell out of my chest. I was like, "No, game, you've been so good to me. Why the bamboo would you do this?" Like I was so like I was just like visually upset at the game, and then I was like, "Really?" It's just, oh man. Oh yeah. But no, I'm glad to hear that one's unique as well. I'm very excited to get back to that point again because I've only seen
Yeah,
it once so far.
every time you get, I think the first time actually you do it, it's like it's like the essential, like the base one is like vanquished, and like there's a bracket, you did this.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's kind of grim. Even like when you can check also in the bar, there's always like the employee of the month or whatever.
Aw.
There's a poster there's the broker where you can buy items. In front of him there's a wall with a picture of a character, and it's always like you get like, oh, it's like employee of whatever, and it's one of the named characters. And there is there even can be Cerberus, and it's like, oh, Cerberus, okay, officially the best boy.
Agreed.
So yeah, there's a lot of like small touches that make the game so great. Like when you fight the boss in Elysium, the duo boss, if you beat the boss, there's actually a small thing to the left side of the arena, which I'm not gonna spoil. I'm just gonna say it's there. And when I noticed that for the first time, I was like, oh, that's actually super cute. So yeah,
I haven't
there's
noticed that, so I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the heads up on that.
so there's a lot of things, a lot of small details that make the game feel that obviously it's done by a studio that know their stuff, and there's a supreme amount of polish. I haven't run into a single broken thing in the game. And like when I mean broken, I mean bugs, because yes, you can say like the Poseidon, Zeus, Athena thing is broken. It's broken only because you realize the interaction between each of the abilities.
Correct. And I would argue it still boils down to your play style.
Yeah.
Because that using that combination, it forces you to be aggressive and quick and keep moving. And if you do not play like that, then you will not see the benefit. Like somebody using a bow or a gun will not see benefits from that play style. Like it'll be nice, but nowhere near the same as if you play in melee.
Yeah, I mean, technically you can, but you'd have to switch around some abilities. And definitely I did like play like that with the Rail of the Diamond, which is the gun. And I finished the run like that. It's completely possible. It's just I like, even like when I talk with Orko, when we play a game, like he plays a game, I play a game, I usually play way more aggressive. And that's just because I like, to play a fast-paced style of combat. I don't really care to, hang back unless it's a game specifically made like that. Like I love stealth games, and those are all about, hanging back and biding your time. Hades, like to me, the way it's placed, because it's so dash heavy and it's all about like essentially mashing buttons, that I don't think it really lends itself to being successful playing any other way. Even with like the quote unquote slow weapons like the bow or the spear, the gun, even the shield. The shield, it's like all about the dash strike, so you have to dash all back and forth between the enemies and just bashing them with the shield.
Exactly. Now, one if there's anything that I can take away though, if I had to end on a point for this game, and Orco, this is targeted to you specifically because I know you haven't seen it. I cannot stress this enough that when you get to Elysium, after you beat the Bone Hydra, that's by far the most difficult I've experienced out of everything is that zone, because the enemies are just so much more difficult to deal with. Keep going. Like it's that apparently is the zone that the majority of people will actually rage quit, or they will walk away from the game, because it's that difficult. I cannot stress it is worth the payoff to make it through that to a surprising degree. So I cannot stress, if it feels like it gets too much, it's worth trying to get through that zone, and you understand immediately after you pass there. So it's very difficult to make it through, but once you make it through that zone once, it changes the game entirely. Even if you have to restart, I remember after I finally defeated that layer, everything else in the game, for some reason, it's that point, like in Dark Souls. I hate using that as an example, but it's my best reference for this. It's that point in Dark Souls where you no longer feel like you are surprised by enemies. Like you go with the motions, and that was the point in the game for me that it started to feel that way in a good way. So don't get the main point is don't give up if Elysium bamboozles you, because it's expected to, but the payoff is tenfold. So
Yeah, I think it also makes sense thematically, because essentially it's the warrior heaven in Greek mythology. It's like much like Valhalla, so it makes sense that it is essentially the toughest layer. And even the boss itself, it's tough before you realize, actually, like, stop and think about it. It's like, oh, okay, if I do this, actually it's fine, because you realize, okay, this is how I pace the fight, and it's gonna make it much easier. It's all about realizing how to each as randomly generated as it is. It's always a combat puzzle. It's like, okay, I need to deal with that guy first before I need to really worry about these guys, because these guys at this point, or with my current weapon and setup, are essentially non-threat. So I go for these guys first and then deal with these guys.
Want to add anything?
Yes, play Hades.
Okay.
Play Hades.
Play Hades.
I agree.
And don't give up.
And don't give up. Keep moving forward. Yep.
Exactly. Okay, so after we had that, so it's probably one of the best games that has been released this year. I guess we can agree to that.
I agree. I agree with that completely. It is very much even more so game of the year. This is a game that will sit in my top 5 list, and that's a very strong statement, because I'm very particular on games that I'm like, this is something that I could go back and replay again. And this is one that even after I beat the game, if I do, I am confident I will be picking this up again as a go-to. So yes, play the game. 10 out of 10. Game of the year. Panda certified.
Funny you say that. You have to actually finish the game 10 times to get the true ending.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, there we go.
To hit the credits, you actually have to finish the game 10 times. So yeah,
Alright.
I think it's definitely worth it because you unlock so much and you get so much original stuff each time you go through that it doesn't feel like a chore.
So we can go on to the last topic, which is World of Warcraft Shadowlands pre-patch.
So sure, so I can kick us off. There's two things that I want to jump off with this. One of them is a very quick overview of what the pre-patch is for those that maybe are new to how really WoW does things, and two, just get some initial feedback and why I strongly recommend, be it new or older players, to consider actually checking this out. With the pre-patch, just as an introduction, what Blizzard has done with WoW, which I think is actually a pretty effective strategy in the last several expansions, is they will take the guts of the new changes that are coming with an expansion. So Shadowlands coming up here soon. They will integrate it into the game ahead of time to give. Normally, it's about a month out, but this time, because of the pushback, it's a little bit longer. But it gives the opportunity for everybody that has been playing to experience the changes in a light layer. So without all the additions that are coming with the new expansion, but the core foundation of the game changes. So it's a very nice opportunity to baby step for those that have been using the game that did not want to experience the beta or the PTR, and more importantly, it lets you adjust yourself without the new content, and then you can integrate the new stuff much easier. So and from a technical and technology perspective, it's actually a way to ensure that your new expansion and DLC launch isn't going to be impacted by the new content bugs. By launching the pre-patch first, a lot of your gut changes and core application adjustments are already validated and vetted before you introduce or you flip the switch for the new expansion content to come out. So it's a smart play. But specifically with this pre-patch, what exactly is coming with this, or what is available now? The first big thing, and this is what I'll touch on the second point, is there's a full revamp of the leveling system. One of I think the biggest daunting things about WoW previously was if you wanted to check the game out, there were 120 levels you had to go through. And it was bamboozling enough that WoW had a way you could pay to level to 120. Like, it was such a daunting task for somebody brand new to the game to experience it. Like, people would pay money or pay the cost of an expansion to get there, or avoid that effort in doing so. And that's a pretty bold state. So they completely squished down the levels to where the max level currently is 50, and when Shadowlands releases, it bumps back up to 60, which is the original leveling style. In addition to that, they have completely revamped the leveling system. So the amount of time it takes to get from 1 to 50, the current in level, is a tenth what it used to be. It is much faster to get to end game naturally and organically. And more importantly, and this is the brotastic thing, they changed the way that you level. So it's a much more enjoyable experience. Like, for me personally, even though all I do is get hit in the face with tanks, if I ever wanted to play another character, I am excited about actually leveling something new again. Whereas used to, I would never spend that effort doing so, because it's such an enjoyable experience now. Because the way they have it set up is
I
I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Echo.
I just need to say one thing before I explode. Must feel great for everyone who has actually purchased a 120 level character. Those $60 were well spent, ladies and gentlemen.
I will say that, as because I can understand why it's a lot of people might feel like it's a panda pot of the face to some degree. It's still a significant time investment, where I think that the level, the pay for a leveled character, there's still merit to it to a degree, especially because one of the other benefits to doing so is you get auto geared, you get there's several benefit addendums to it. So I can understand where somebody that's like, well, I spent all this time or all this money doing this, they could feel frustrated because it's so much simpler to get there now. But I think there's still a time commitment that it still justifies it to a degree to those that would be willing to do it. I personally, I've only used the ones you get free when you get the upgraded expansions. So I personally wouldn't do it myself, but instead of buying one, I just outright refused to level any characters because it was just a time commitment I was not able to do. So so I think there's still an argument for it. But yes, I could see how somebody would be like, well, that's great. I'm glad I did that. But so with that on the coattails of that though, so the level, the 1 to 10 level experience, they've unlocked a brand new area that's reminiscent for those that are OG MMO fans. It's what EverQuest 2 originally had when the game first launched, which is you're a refugee that was stranded on an island, and you're using that time to learn about in this case the faction you support, your particular race, your class, and it baby steps you into the game. And as somebody that understands the game, I didn't feel like I was being coddled, but it was revamped in a way that if somebody was brand new to an MMO, it was a beautifully well done a way of introducing the game, much simpler than what it was before, which was you're just kind of thrown into the wild and you got to figure it out. So the new player experience is much better now. Why I strongly recommend even just downloading the game for free to give it a try. That experience alone is phenomenal right now. And then once you hit level 10, for those that are experienced to the genre, and let's say that you've been through multiple expansions, the way the leveling system works now is you actually pick a specific expansion you are going to level through. So you have, we got what, Burning Crusade, you have Wrath of the Lich King, you've got Cataclysm, Mist of Pandaria, you have the Warlords of Draenor, you have Legion, and then you have the newest expansion, BFA, the Battle for Azeroth. So instead of you having to like pick which one of those expansions is the one that will get you where you want to go faster, you pick a single expansion, and that expansion effectively guides you through in game. So you can just pick a single location that your character will grow through. And I think that's phenomenal, because that what that allows you to do is, if you are somebody that's new to the game, if you wanted to paper trail your way through all of the old expansions, you can do that now. You pick an expansion, you get to experience it from beginning to end, and that gives you a unique experience. But then if you decide you want to go check out Wrath of the Lich King, you can level a different character and level it specifically through there. So your character experience is significantly different depending on which expansion you decide to level through. And you can mix and match them at any time. So if you want to like have a taste over here, then you can stop leveling that expansion and go somewhere else if you wanted to. But the idea is you're not running all over the place. You're locking yourself to a specific point in time, even if it's the newest content, and you're leveling through that. So I'm not going to get into all of the more like technical changes that are coming, because I think that all that's irrelevant. Those are the big things that I think are worth talking about. Is it has revamped the new player experience, number one, and I cannot stress how much of an enjoyable experience it is now. And two, for those existing players that maybe are on the fence on coming back, the end game, what's coming with Shadowlands is going to be worth it tenfold. But I think coming back right now is the best time to do so, because you're getting the guts of what's changing right now. So that's my spiel.
Sounds good. I never really could dive into World of Warcraft. Maybe now's the time. I don't know. I might play it a little bit on off stream the next few days to see where I stand.
Need somebody to get hit in the face for you, Orco. You know I got you.
I get hit in the face myself. I'm a monk. I'll take it like a pro.
There it is.
Okay, yeah, so sounds good to me. I still don't know what to think of World of Warcraft, to be honest. I just have a few days left, so might as well use them. So let's stop it here.
Excellent.
We're done, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Orcocast episode 28. Has been an absolute blast, an absolute joy. It was short, sweet, and to the point, like I love it. You all out there, listeners, take care of yourselves. And we see us in episode 29 next week. Until then, tell us in the comments how wrong we are. Tell us in the comments how right we are. Thumb up, thumb down, whatever you want to do. And Professor Panda, where can we find you?
Absolutely. You can find me primarily on Twitch at twitch.tv/professor_panda. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, making reels and TikToks on nearly a daily basis. And of course, you can also find me on Twitter, where I promote panda positivity any way that I can. All with the same professor_panda.
Awesome. Bam Bam, we can find you in the underworld at Hades' desk.
Yes.
Exactly.
Most likely.
Yeah. Awesome. And you can find me on twitch.tv/theorcosaurus, twitter.com/theorcosaurus, Instagram Orcosaurus, and that's about it. You all rock, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.